Welcome into the latest edition of My Team. Oh, wasn't Monaco a doozy? We recorded our best result of the season with P12. Unfortunately, it was not on my side of the garage. Dan Ticktum scored that fantastic result for the team. We unfortunately made an early exit from the Grand Prix after being involved in a lot of carnage early on. We survived a run-in with George Russell. We survived a couple of battles with other cars, but ultimately we retired the car on our own, understeering into one of the Armco barriers and not playing a further part for the last 26 laps of the Grand Prix. So we're desperately hoping for an improved showing in the next one. We do have the Azerbaijan Grand Prix in Baku, so we're excited to get into that. So let's head back to the office and get to it.
The personnel department has requested your input on this one.
So straight into a situation. So essentially, the systems are going to be offline. Dan's not going to be able to use the simulator, so we're going to get him to work on his fitness and his physical condition. So very simple one there. We're going to decline him the time off. Next item of business is to assign a second sponsor to the team. So we've got Duotone as our #1 sponsor for the season. The next one is a shorter term sponsorship. We're going to go with Highland, not because of the cash or the bonuses, but purely because it's a 105-day deal. So it's a bit of continuity. We don't have to come in and chop and change it super often. So it's a very convenient one for the team. And the bonuses are very achievable as well. We need to overtake 5 drivers across the course of a weekend. And at the moment, on the first corner, we're averaging about 5 spots. So we can definitely achieve that between Dan and myself. A quick glance at the performance index. We're still the 4th worst team on the grid, but that won't bother us. So Baku, although it's a street circuit, it's very power sensitive. So we've got an amazing power unit. So each of the straights, each of the DRS zones, we're going to be in real good shape across this weekend. I'm very excited about this race. Baku personally is one of my favorite tracks to race on. I just love the flow of it. So we're really going to do our best to put the car in a good position to hopefully score points this weekend. Now, during free practice, there was a bit of a shock. We didn't fare too well, and it gave me a bit of a feeling that we weren't going to be too competitive in Q1, but it's always hard to tell what other teams are doing with different fuel loads, different tires, a different age of tires. So let's get into it. Geez, I love these cutscenes, seeing us getting ready, pulling the helmet on. Let's get into Q1. So putting down a banker lap to start the session with 13 minutes left on the clock. We're right behind the Aston Martin of Lance Stroll. Really tactically, we want to be in his slipstream. We want to be far enough away that we're getting a little bit of a tow down the straights, but close enough so that we get a bit of a tow during the straights, but not close enough so that we are pulling onto the back of him and getting that dirty air through the rear diffuser. So we're doing a really good job of that at the moment. We are not as quick a car as the Aston Martin, so we are in pretty good shape to actually stay that necessary distance away from him. Coming down into the tricky downhill left-hander, we're in a really good place. And he pulls off because he's actually on an out lap, ramping up for a timed lap. So this could not have worked more perfectly for us. We're going to get DRS assistance as we come through the final straight. Topping out, during practice, we were the 2nd fastest car through the speed trap. So we are every chance of sneaking into the second session here. Our first lap is a 1:39.5.
There's only 1 lap of fuel remaining.
And we have only been outperformed to this point by Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. Not a bad place to be. So as we scroll through, we are about to head out for our second timed lap, and we're sitting in 8th position. So obviously with track evolution, that's going to change somewhat, but geez, we're in a good position at the moment.
We're second in the speed trap, 320.7 kilometers per hour. All clear the garage, please. Car ready to leave.
Now we're going to try the same tactic. We're going out when a bunch of other cars are going out too. We're going to try to time our outlap so that when the clock starts for our final qualifying run, we are close enough to either George or one of the cars around us. And unfortunately, coming into the final section of the track where we're 1.5 seconds down, even with the tow that we're going to get from Mick Schumacher down the straight, the final run of Q1 has not gone to plan. We are not going to improve our time, which honestly is not the worst thing in the world. We need to make sure we are at least P16, and we have done exactly that. We are out of Q1, and we didn't improve anything on qualifying 2, but we are going to start the Azerbaijan Grand Prix the same way we started the first race of the season in Bahrain, from P15 on the grid.
A warm welcome to all of you watching at home to today's Azerbaijan Grand Prix, and a race that in its short history has already proven no stranger to drama. A 4th row start is just about as likely to give you a podium as a pole position would. And remember, in 2017 and 2018, both Lance Stroll and then Sergio Perez took surprise podiums here. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Lando Norris put in a fantastic lap yesterday and will start from pole position. And it's Valtteri Bottas that completes the front row. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Ricciardo, Hamilton, Sergio Perez and Sainz, Leclerc, Stroll, Gasly and Sebastian Vettel, Tsunoda, Ocon, Kimi Raikkonen and Verstappen. They'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. Smith, Giovinazzi, Mick Schumacher and Nikita Mazepin. Ticktum, Latifi, Fernando Alonso and George Russell ends our grid lineup. It's almost time for those 5 red lights to go out. Then let's see who can prevail today.
So in terms of strategy, we are going to take a large portion of fuel out of the car. I am incredibly confident of some safety car action. So this track is very notorious, especially through the castle section, for having some tangles. We're going to start on the softs as well and go for a 2-stop strategy. So coming in to form the grid, and we're also going to become Max Verstappen. That's very interesting. Haven't seen that one before. We're now riding on board with Max Verstappen coming into the grid. There he goes. We break apart when 1 become 2. So lining up on the grid in P15. We're expecting fireworks. We're on the faster compound around some other medium runners. We've got 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights. And we're underway for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix in Baku. We make quick work of Kimi Raikkonen. He gets double teamed by myself and Max Verstappen. We go around the outside. We've done Esteban Ocon as well. Verstappen has fallen by the wayside, but he's going to keep going up the inside. And we've made a huge dive bomb up the inside of Antonio Giovinazzi in the Alfa Romeo. We've got no damage. We are in the clear. P12. Phenomenal start to get going underway in Baku. We're going to have a look up the inside of Sebastian Vettel. Nothing doing there. But we are going to pounce. We're going to make this tyre advantage work early on in the race. We're into P11. We've got Seb early on. We're not going to worry about fuel for the moment. That will come into play a little bit later on, but we are going to hope for some safety car action. Next one in front of us is Yuki Tsunoda. Also on the medium compound, and then we get into Pierre Gasly, who's on the soft, so we need to make this advantage count as soon as possible and get past the Japanese driver. We're in a good spot here where we're vulnerable to Seb, but we're very close to Yuki as well.
We're monitoring somewhere on the ICE. Be aware that we will start to see a loss of power.
And for the second race in a row, we've got issues with the power unit. That is not going to help our cause on a very, very power-driven circuit where we've reduced our drag. We're running very minimal front wing. Let's see how long we can get before Jeff has another word with us. Hopefully we can keep the car going and not have to retire. And we've made up some really good inroads there at the back end of the lap on Yuki. We're well within striking distance. We don't have DRS assistance just yet, but coming into turn 2, we are hot on his heels. Into turn 3, we are going to make that count. Diving up the inside, and we're in the top 10. We are in the points already on lap 2. Coming from P15 on the grid, this has been a phenomenal start for us. Now fast forwarding to the very next lap on the home straight, we do have DRS available, but Yuki is right behind us going into the next DRS zone. Making a dive for the pits with some front wing damage is Antonio Giovinazzi. The Italian got tangled up in some early issues. So we rejoin now. Yuki Tsunoda hot on our heels. He makes a dive up the inside on turn 2. We have actually got DRS as a result of that. So we will hold that permission. We go up into overtake as well, just to make sure. And he's got up the inside again at turn 3, so he's going to make that position stick. And turn 4, we're going to switch back again. We've got the elbows out. We still have a tyre advantage over Yuki. He has a faster car. So while we can, we're going to make the most of this situation. We're using all the track to take advantage. Now, back onto the home straight. At the end of lap 4, we've got DRS on Pierre Gasly. We're going to go up into overtake and use that very minimal ERS assistance that we have.
Okay, you're in the top 10.
Jeff has forgotten how to count because we were already in P10. Coming up into P9. Now he believes we're in the top 10. So P9, we've got to try not to get too dizzy up in these dizzying heights. The altitude here is a bit thin.
In this lap, push now.
Okay, we've got our in-lap now to make our first pit stop for the medium compound tyres. Got Carlos Sainz ahead in P5. We've got DRS available to use, so we open the rear wing, making a run for him up to turn 4. Oh, we've almost taken out our front wing. Oh, the latest of the late breakers. We need to be a bit careful. We've still got 20 laps to go in this one. It's not a sprint. It is a marathon. We're making great progress, but we've got to be careful just to settle things down a little bit. We've still got Yuki hot on our heels within DRS range back to us, so we've got to be on our toes, ready for anything. Sainz will be struggling with his tyres as we are, and Yuki's tyres will be coming into their own now. So they will be starting to make that advantage obvious, and there he is.
For now, everything's looking good.
He comes up the inside, makes a move where nothing was on, and Yuki has been turned around. Quick replay shows he just ran out of room. We squeezed him ever so slightly on the inside of that one. I think the stewards will have a look at it. Ultimately, I believe they will call that as a racing incident. It was fair for Yuki to have a look, but also fair for us to make sure he knew that we were there, and if he was going to take that risk, he was going to have to be on his toes. We come into the pits now to make our first pit stop.
Stay clear of the white line on the exit.
We shuffle out behind a battle pack of Nicholas Latifi, George Russell, and Pierre Gasly, all on the medium compound. We immediately get DRS. Coming up to turn 3, we're hot on the back of this little group forming. Make quick work of Nicholas Latifi. The Williams is not going to do us too much damage, so now we're after Pierre,
On track, but officials aren't looking to push.
who has actually been passed by George Russell. So all on the same compound, they need to make a pit stop, so they're out of sequence. We are not realistically P19 at this point. So it's a very interesting one there. Pierre Gasly not too competitive in the AlphaTauri. And this is where we're going to really get hot on their heels. We're using a little bit of overtake around the twisty bends. We're going to wait.
Waiting here are Gasly and Latifi.
And I don't know if that's a change that's just been made for F1 2021, but in previous versions, I am almost certain as we make a move up the outside, we're going to do both Pierre Gasly and George Russell into turn one. Fantastic move. I think that's probably the move of my season so far. We've made very quick work of them. Yes, we had DRS open and we had our battery being drained as well, but that's really, really gotten us back into the runners who we were mixing with earlier. So Fernando Alonso, Yuki Tsunoda, and we've got Carlos Sainz up there in the foreground who we were battling with before our pit stop. So back to that earlier point, I feel like earlier in the F1 series, if you asked who you were racing, Jeff would actually tell you realistically who you were in a battle with. So at the moment, we're battling Carlos Sainz and Fernando Alonso based on our tyre strategy for the race. So they're both two-stopping, and that's who we were mixing it with before the first round of pit stops. Whereas him letting us know that we're racing Nicholas Latifi and Pierre Gasly, yes, they're in front and behind us on track, but that's not who we're racing in this. So I don't know if that's intentional, but that's certainly what's happening, which I don't find too useful during a half-distance race. DRS open on the main straight. We get past Fernando on the outside. He pits, which is very useful for us, so we get the tow.
It is 2.2 seconds.
We get the tow up into T1, and he makes a pit stop, so then we get some clear air before we can hunt Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari.
Signs ahead. Our gap to the car in front is 2.2 seconds. They're on fresh mediums.
So for some reason, Carlos Sainz had to dive into the pit stop. He might have been carrying some front wing damage. So here we are coming onto the back of Mick Schumacher, who is running the hard, so he's running a one-stop strategy.
Been informed of an incident which has resulted in lots of loose debris on the track. The safety car...
And there is that safety car that we were praying for. Sebastian Vettel comes out of the pits, coming into turn two. They're three wide. Nicholas Latifi is the unlucky, innocent bystander who gets squeezed into the barriers, loses his front wing, and that is the end of his race. It looked for a while like he might be able to continue.
Drop your speed, our delta is too low and we risk a penalty. Slow your pace immediately.
And there is confirmation that Latifi is going to take no further part in the Grand Prix.
Daniel is in the pits. Daniel in the pits.
Now, Dan has taken the pit stop, so we don't... And this is where the team have almost had to prioritize his side of the garage. He was making a pit stop. If I come in to change tyres, as I would have liked to have done, change that strategy, I'm going to have to double stack. So I'm going to have to wait behind him to finish his pit stop. So Dan is now
by 2.1 seconds.
With priority for the Grand Prix. Yes, we've taken track position, but that is really going to cost us come the end of the Grand Prix when we're on a fresh set of mediums and he is well up the road and out of sequence. So, defending from Sergio Perez, who has just absolutely whacked the wall coming into turn 3. And this is where the race just descends into chaos somewhat. the two Alfa Romeo cars simultaneously come into pit lane and they have retired on the spot. I'm not sure what happened there. I've gone through everything and I've tried to find what was behind that.
Second a lap faster, 1 second.
And now Jeff is not giving me much, so maybe he's gone and joined Dan's pit wall as his race engineer because he's really not giving as much. I was a bit upset with him that they prioritized Dan during the pit stops when I was in a much better position. There is going to be some turmoil at Rapid Racing after this one shakes out. Let me tell you that. The debrief is going to be feisty.
0.9 seconds. They're on old mediums. Their tyres are 8 laps old. We think they've got one more stop. The time last lap was a 1:43.9.
So Vettel was really hot on our heels within DRS range. We made a dive into the pits. He did as well. So we're going to try and come out ahead of the Aston Martin man. Let's see what we can do here. 2.5 seconds. It's not lightning fast, but we have just pulled ahead and maintained that position. That was on a knife edge. As we come down into turn 2, we've also taken Sergio Perez, who pitted out of sequence the lap earlier. That went about as well as it could have for us, but here we go, coming under siege from Vettel again, coming to turn 3. We're going to hold that position, and he's been squeezed into the wall.
Mileage on it to a minimum.
The virtual safety car is out.
Being deployed. Slow down and maintain a
It was the Alfa Romeo of Kimi Räikkönen back in Barcelona that suffered the same fate. George Russell back in Monaco. There is a bit of a theme here in this season of drivers putting their cars right up the inside in between myself and an Armco barrier and coming out second best. Luckily for us, we were no worse for the wear, so we didn't sustain any damage. There's Seb coming in for a new front wing. The other one was very second-hand, so he is out of the picture for the remainder of this race in terms of being competitive and potentially coming into the points. My oh my, the VSC is over, and here we go.
3.9 seconds.
4 laps to go. We're in P13. We have a clear tyre advantage for the moment over Dan and Fernando, but we have quite a gap to make up. I feel like points are out of the question at the moment. We are just racing for pride and racing for team honours, because Dan's 9 seconds up the road. Fernando is realistically 2 seconds on track up the road with his 5-second penalty. So the race is on. We've got Sergio Perez 3.4 seconds behind us. He's on the hards. He is probably not going to make too many inroads on us because we've gone with the 2-stopper, so our mediums are quite fresh. The race is on to fight tooth and nail to finish ahead of our teammate, who has had preferential treatment from the team due to where he was on track when the safety car came out. The tough situation we're in as well is that while we do have fresher tyres, Fernando, Dan...
Gap to the car in front is 6.5 seconds. They're on old hards. Their tyres are 10 laps old. The car ahead has some front wing damage, but it's not losing much pace yet. The time last lap was a 1:46.1.
There we go. Welcome back, Jeff. Okay, so Fernando's got some front wing damage, so he's sticking with Dan quite nicely at the moment, not falling too far back. He's about 1.5 seconds down on the Brit. So he is going to start falling away, but he's got front wing damage. So we're going to round him up in about 1.5 laps to 2 laps time. It's whether we can get around him as easily and as hassle-free as possible as to whether we will have battery available, whether we will still have enough laps available to actually reel in Dan ticked him as well, so it is all to play for here. Except for, of course, points to play for.
4.9 seconds.
Thanks, Jeff. So this race really has not panned out the way that we thought. But it's exciting nonetheless, where our pace is great, which really...
Okay, let's see if we can catch the car ahead. The gap is 5 seconds.
Oh, we're going to see, Jeff. We're not going to leave anything out on track. We can see them now. We have visuals on the target. We have very minimal battery remaining. And so early on in the season, without too many resource points and upgrades applied, the battery really drains quickly. We don't get
Laps of fuel remaining.
We don't get too much regeneration from ERS during the race, which we will once we apply some of the upgrades available when we get them. But for the moment, we really just need to make sure we are racing as cleanly and consistently as possible. Under 3 seconds, the gap to Alonso on track now. And he is really staying pace with Dan, although he has what looks like an end plate to his front wing missing. So we've definitely got P12 in the bag at the moment if all things stay the same because of the 5-second penalty applied to Fernando after the race. We need to get DRS assistance as quick as possible. So hopefully if we can stick... And hold on, that is not an Alpine in front of us. I think Dan may have a back marker on his tail. And Max Verstappen has just pitted, so we've inherited P12, which effectively will be P11. Dan is in the points. Max Verstappen having to pit for a new front wing and a fresh set of self-compound tyres. Rapid Racing is about to score our first points of the season and of our life. Dan is in P10, 3.4 seconds ahead. We've got about a lap and a half to catch him. I think that's going to be hard to do. I think we probably are lapping about a second or so a lap quicker than the Great Britain man. But we've got Fernando Alonso right in front of us. That is not Dan. That is Yuki Tsunoda in 19th. So the blue flags are waving. We make quick work of him. We've got Fernando well in our eyesight now. We just got a glimpse of the pink Rapid Racing car of Dan Ticktum, which, unless we can clear Fernando as quickly as possible, and here we are up into turn 1 on the final lap. He's not going to make it easy on us. So we now open the DRS flap, as you can see in the rear vision mirror. We jump up the outside, take Fernando's position, and the hunt is on for Dan, but time is absolutely running out now. We're going to try and get some ERS back for the final stretch. But we need it just to try and get onto his gearbox as quickly as possible. It's a 1.7 second gap. So by the time we get to the DRS detection zones, we need to make sure we're within 1 second of Dan. So we're shaving about 2/10 off.
Fuel remaining.
Shaving about 2/10 off every corner, it seems, because we definitely have a massive tyre advantage. He's been on those hards for about 12 laps now. Daniel Ricciardo, our countryman, has taken the checkered flag for McLaren. That is an amazing result. Very impressed for the Honey Badger. And coming through the final corner, we are just going to be a touch too far. We haven't dropped under a second the gap to Dan, so he's going to take points. We need to be happy for him. So Dan takes P10 at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. We take P11.
And bring it home.
fantastic result for the team. We need to keep that front of mind this early on in the season. Dan takes driver of the day as well. He, of course, came from further behind. I think he was P19 on the grid.
Fantastic Grand Prix that was, and an excellent win for McLaren. Anthony, tell me, what was it that helped them achieve this success?
Well, the safety car completely changed the race, didn't it? It's hard to say exactly what would have happened without it, but there's no question that they came out of that situation in a good position.
As the winners make their way up to the podium, one can only imagine the celebrations that will take place at McLaren tonight. Congratulations to everyone on the team, securing the win and proving they're a force to be reckoned with out on the track. Let's have a quick look at how the driver standings have changed. This result narrows the gap between our championship leader and the rest of the standings. So, Anthony Davidson, who would you rank as your driver of the day?
Daniel Ticktum gets my vote today.
Let's move on to the constructors. Mercedes continue to extend their lead. There was also a strong showing from the McLaren team today as they make their way up the standings. And with that, we wrap up another weekend of motorsport. But with more races lined up, be sure to join us when we come back with more Formula One.
Well, a lot to unpack there. Lewis Hamilton finishes P4 coincidentally, but because of Max Verstappen's issues, he extends further his championship lead in the season. So, great result for him. Daniel Ricciardo wins the race with Lando Norris in second. Awesome day for McLaren. Oh, so Dan coming from P19 to finish P10. Phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. We've seen how much pace our car has, which really bodes well for Canada. Another track I really generally perform quite well at, so it's a good omen for the Canadian Grand Prix. That was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun. Really cool race. Action from start to finish, and there was jeopardy all the way through. There was plenty of opportunity for us. We're going to go back to the drawing board again to see what kind of resource points we've got available for the Canadian Grand Prix, what upgrades we've got coming around the corner as well for Canada and for France. Things are looking good. I haven't been this excited after any race apart from Bahrain at the opening day of the season, but it's been a couple of not preferable results, but today's a good day. That was really awesome. So we will see you next time from Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve. We will be back in action very shortly for the Canadian Grand Prix. Thanks again for watching. Hit the like button, subscribe, and we will see you next time.